And the mythical mastery of Caitlyn Clark continues.
With the first pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, the Indiana Fever select Caitlyn Clark, University of Iowa.
Over the past couple years, I've just gotten a lot of attention in the media, and a lot of it has been focused on me and other white athletes.
This woman you see right here is who the mainstream media and clearly the WNBA wants Caitlyn Clark to be. If she was this person, you wouldn't be witnessing the most outrageous, politically motivated athlete attack in sports history. Despite already being by far the most popular player in league history, you've been fed more Caitlyn Clark politics than highlights. It's kinda shocking considering she's a person who chooses to only speak about basketball. Somehow that hasn't stopped the media and most of the players and coaches inside the WNBA who are seemingly dead set on turning her into a political pawn. It's a dangerous move, one that could cripple the league's chances of inspiring a new generation. On the surface, it might seem like silly headlines, but the stakes are higher than they've ever been before. Make absolutely no mistake about it. If the political assault of Caitlyn Clark continues, it will end up costing the WNBA the opportunity to grow from a poverty league that's never turned a profit into a league that competes with the men. It's okay for leagues to admit they need help. The NBA Finals were on tape delay before Larry Magic arrived. The MLB hit rock bottom before Sosa and McGuire exploded. It's no secret that the power to inspire a new generation lies in the hands of superstars. I'm not going to waste your time running through Caitlyn's resume, but I will take it a step further. She's the most popular athlete to turn pro since Conor McGregor burst in the scene in 2008. It's a bold statement, but look at it like this. Who else, other than Conor, can say they put a niche league on their back and carried it into mainstream success? It's hard to explain just how powerful the Caitlyn Clark effect has been, but luckily we have numbers. Iowa's NCAA title game drew 18.9 million viewers. That wasn't just higher than the men's title game, it's significantly higher than the last 4. It was a brutal loss for Caitlyn, but nobody could deny the women's game was in the best place it had ever been. All good things didn't need to come to an end, but unfortunately, the WNBA wasn't prepared to take the next step. Their problem was, and still is, simple. Caitlyn Clark is not Paige Bueckers. And if you're wondering why I keep referring to Paige, who's also a great player, it's because of this clip from the 2021 ESPYs.
With the light that I have now, as a white woman who leads a black-led sport and celebrated here, I want to show a light on black women. They don't get the media coverage that they deserve. They've given so much to this sport and the community and society as a whole, and their value is undeniable. And in the WNBA last season, the postseason awards, 80% of the winners were black, but they got half of the coverage as the white athletes. So I think it's time for change.
Paige set the tone with that speech. Everything she said came from the heart. The reality is, though, not everyone is an activist or wants to use their platform to speak on societal issues. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, unless your name is Caitlyn Clark. The only way a straight white superstar would be permitted to act in a league that's 70% black and 30% LGBTQ was to bend the knee, play the race game, and align with the politics. Caitlyn just wanted to play basketball, and luckily, we were still in the honeymoon phase after the title game. The political assault had yet to begin, and the basketball world was anxiously awaiting for Caitlyn's pro debut. Could she deliver the same energy? College had seen many superstars, but could she finally be the star who shined even brighter in the pros? The truth is, the honeymoon period was exceptionally short. The draft was only 8 days after South Carolina took down Iowa in the championship game. In the last few days leading up to Caitlyn's highly anticipated first step on the hardwood, there were red flags everywhere. The campaign against Caitlyn started from the very top. A'ja Wilson has dominated the W with back-to-back titles and MVP numbers. Despite her greatness, she has very little brand recognition. This has almost nothing to do with the race and everything to do with the concrete truth that some athletes are simply not marketable. This goes for all races. I'll use Mike Trout for example. He was by far the best baseball player in the world from 2012 through 2020, yet he was never the face of the game. No matter how white he was, he couldn't market to fans like white superstars who came before him. The narrative that black athletes, and to be more specific, female black athletes, aren't marketable is backed by absolutely nothing. Michael Jordan is the most marketable athlete to ever live, and Serena Williams has earned over $350 million off the court in endorsement cash while playing a non-major sport. Let me get back to A'ja here. Before the 2024 season, only 2 players in the WNBA signed signature shoe deals, Sabrina Ionescu and Breanna Stewart. When Nike inked Caitlyn to a $28 million signature shoe deal, A'ja Wilson kicked off the outrage by making these comments to the New York Post. "They don't see it as marketable, so it doesn't matter how hard I work. It doesn't matter what we all do as black women, we're still going to be swept underneath the rug. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is." The league's best player kicking off a race war with the league's savior is not only outrageous, it's bad for business. Turns out the media and many players had been itching to echo A'ja's statement, but they took it a step further. Some claimed her race and sexual orientation weren't just driving her popularity, but actually holding others back. Now, you can't bring up a race war in sports without Jemele Hill inserting herself. Ironically, she's the perfect example of why sports does not need to be political. Jemele found out the hard way. Her racially driven ESPN show, The Six, fell flat in its face and was canceled in less than a year. That didn't stop her from dumping fuel on Caitlyn's non-existent politics, though. In an interview with the LA Times, she mentioned several times how Caitlyn's popularity plays a role in, quote, erasing black players. It's an especially head-scratching suggestion, considering Caitlyn's rivalry with Angel Reese has unquestionably assisted in making her a bigger star. Kim Tran, who runs a popular account on X, echoed this by writing, "The WNBA is an activist league. Clark's silence is out of place because Brink and Becker's the norm. In the W, players demanded police accountability before Kaepernick knelt. Entire teams protested white supremacy. There's a social justice council fighting anti-trans laws." The subtext was simple. In order for the WNBA to accept you, they needed you to be black, LGBTQ, or a social activist. Preferably all 3. Caitlyn Clark has never been one of them and repeatedly makes her focus on basketball very clear.
I wonder from your standpoint how you feel about people using your name in whatever culture wars or whatever wars they're fighting. How do you feel about that?
It's not something I can control, so I don't put too much thought and time into thinking about things like that, and to be honest, I don't see a lot of it. I'm just here to play basketball. I'm here to have fun. I'm trying to help our team win. Obviously, we've won 3 games, and we feel like we've been in a position to win a few more than that. And my focus is on helping us do that. But I don't pay much mind to all of that, to be honest.
As you can imagine, that interview did not sit well with the W. Connecticut Sun guard Dejanay Carrington exploded in response. "Dog, how can one not be bothered by their name being used to justify racism, bigotry, misogyny, xenophobia, homophobia, and the intersectionalities of them all as nuts? We all see the shit, we all have a platform, we all have a voice, and they all hold weight. Silence is a luxury." Despite the negative press, Caitlyn didn't disappoint in her debut. She poured in 20 points in a game that drew a record 2.1 million viewers. For reference, the 2023 NBA opening game drew 2.7 million. It was beyond obvious that Caitlyn was exactly what the W had been waiting for. Even LeBron agreed.
For anyone that's, in sports that's flown commercial or flown, charter, that should be celebrated. And it's because of Caitlyn Clark. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it fucked up. Caitlyn Clark is the reason why a lot of great things is going to happen for the WNBA. But for her individually, I don't think she should get involved on nothing that's being said. Just go have fun, enjoy.
Instead of LeBron's powerful endorsement easing the political assault, they turned up the heat. Hashtag the W is more than one player started trending on X. None of it made sense. For years, the W clamored for national media coverage, and as soon as they got it, they spit on it. Instead of embracing the attention from someone like LeBron, players and coaches railed the media for only discussing Caitlyn. Angel Reese had this to say.
I'll look back in 20 years and be like, yeah, the reason why we watching women's basketball is not just because of one person, it's because of me too, and I want y'all to realize that. Angel
isn't wrong here. She is a big name, and stars before her paved the way, but no stars ever shine like Caitlyn's, and it didn't sit right with those at the top. Cheryl Reeves is the coach of Team USA. In a now-deleted tweet, she responded to the WNBA's post about the Fever by mentioning that the Sky and Lynx play as well. Naturally, she punctuated it with hashtag 12 teams and hashtag the W is more than one player. Reeves is not so coincidentally also the same coach who left Caitlyn off the Olympic roster. An extremely controversial and pivotal move in the campaign against Caitlyn. At least up to this point, nobody had debated Caitlyn's greatness on the court. Reeve went there. Now, anyone with eyes can see she's at least good enough to make the roster and get some run. If the people at the top truly cared about growing the game as much as they claim to, the first move they'd make would be putting the biggest draw in the history of the sport on the team so she can showcase her skills on a global stage. It's a no-brainer. Of course, we quickly learned the decision had nothing to do with skill. 2 anonymous US basketball veterans reported that a major factor in the decision to snub her was the potential negative reaction of her millions of fans after they saw her limited playing time on a stacked roster. It's another way of saying Caitlyn is so popular that she cannot represent her country. Coach Reeve denied the reports and claimed that Caitlyn's absence at the senior national camp drove her decision. She added that she wasn't familiar enough with her, but let's dig in there for a second. Skipping basketball activities doesn't sound like Caitlyn. Why would she do that? After looking at the calendar, the picture becomes clearer. The camp in question was held at the exact same time she was leading Iowa to back-to-back national championship appearances. Seems like a pretty good excuse. So to clarify here, she can't play for Team USA because she became too famous after winning too much in college. She can't be the face of the league because she's white, straight, and not a social activist. Those are the Caitlyn Clark rules. The most damning piece of this entire media assault is how clear it is that those who choose to speak against her don't watch the league. I dare you to find a clip where they break down Caitlyn's playstyle or dive into her stats. The media could easily discuss how she's the fastest woman in league history to 200 points, 75 rebounds, and 75 assists, but instead, we get some of the most brain-dead takes of all time. Even from people like Jason Whitlock, who are trying to point out the political assault. Have a listen and try not to laugh.
In many respects, the obstacle course confronting Caitlyn Clark in the WNBA is more difficult than the path Jackie Robinson traveled integrating Major League Baseball in 1947.
2023 was by far the most popular year in league history. Everything was heading in the right direction. Viewership and attendance were both through the roof. The league was seemingly in prime position to hit the ground running when Caitlyn arrived. Even the men were on board and helping to pave the way with events like Sabrina's three-point shootout with Steph, which became the highlight of All-Star Weekend. They just couldn't help themselves. Instead of embracing the biggest superstar the game has ever seen, they attacked her. I mean that literally as well. Here's Kennedy Carter picking up a flagrant one from a meaningless hip check.
Off to Carter, her jumper is good. Kennedy Carter now with 12 points off the bench.
Now, so far, Caitlyn's star power has been so strong that the league has still found success despite the distractions. Not everything is great, they're still on pace to lose $50 million this year, but the Caitlyn numbers are in, and they are shocking. 33% of the total league attendance has come from games that Caitlyn plays in. The Fever lead the league in road attendance, averaging more than 4,000 fans per game, and their home tickets have more than doubled in price. The numbers are amazing, but the common denominator is obviously Caitlyn. Sure, the W is more than one player, but there's only one player that moves the needle. Caitlyn is the one who's inspiring an entire generation of girls, but the sad reality is, when you're determined to transform sports into a game of politics, you turn off a large number of fans. Simply put, the W is not in a position to turn off any fans. Despite what the mainstream media believes, the percentage of people who prefer their sports without a race war is infinitely larger than those who do. For many athletes, sports is about competition, and for many fans, sports is their escape. Now, I'm not saying they can't turn it around. Caitlyn is definitely talented, popular, and intelligent enough to weave her way through this mess, but they're shooting themselves in the foot. I'm not suggesting athletes shouldn't feel empowered to speak their minds. They absolutely should if that's what they want, but they need to respect those who choose to focus on the game. The WNBA has forgotten this lesson, and if they continue down the path they're on, they'll soil a golden opportunity to change